Okay, so if we go with the Pixar theory and we put turning red into that, that would mean you would turn into the red panda with any high emotion. But then, based on Inside Out, only anger is red. So that means you'd only have to get angry to turn into the red panda. But that doesn't make sense because they said any emotion. So if the story was called Turning Blue, then with Inside Out logic, that would be sadness. So you'd have to get really, really sad. But what would you turn into? A really sad creature or a really slow creature like a sloth, maybe a snail? Okay, well, but then if you turn green, that means you'd have to be turned by jealousy. But I mean, I guess you could turn green into the Hulk by being really, really jealous of something, but that's anger. And what animal is the Hulk supposed to be anyway? Oh, I'm getting way too confused. Oh, just start the review. Turning Red is the latest offering from Disney Pixar, and if you don't know what this film is about, basically it's about a 13-year-old girl who learns that the women in her family are gifted or cursed, however you want to look at it, with the ability to turn into red pandas whenever they get emotional in any way. And it's about her coming into her own and how she relates to two totally different groups of people, her family and her friends, and how she works in two completely different worlds to become her own person. I will admit that's probably a little bit more complex than simple, but you get the idea. For me, this movie is what I would call complexedly simple. And here's what I mean by that. On a very general basis, simple basis, this movie is just about a girl who learns that she can turn into a red panda whenever she gets emotional, and how she copes with that, and how it affects her relationship with her family, her friends, and just how she deals with all of that in general. However, on a more complex level, it's about a girl who's going through all these changes as she's getting older. And the red panda is just a metaphor for that. She wants to be loyal, honor her parents, truthful to the family, but she also wants to be like her friends and hang with her friends and get a little rowdy, get a little crazy. So it's basically, I would say, it's honor versus fun, but how you can meld the two and become your own person. And that's the journey that May goes on. And the red panda helps her to do that. Now, I've watched this movie twice, and I'm glad I did. Because the first time, I liked like the second half of the movie. I loved the panda stuff. I loved the final sequence. I loved how they were relating to each other. And it was just fun. It was action packed. That was my cup of tea. But I couldn't really connect to the beginning. And here's why before everybody starts getting coming down my throat and just starts saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. I know what they were going for. I understand what they were going for. But it also, I just couldn't really relate to it because obviously I'm not a girl. But the other thing is, I'm an only child. So I don't have any sisters that went through basically what May is going through that I understood. Yeah, I've seen this before with my own sisters. So I really felt like I didn't have that connection. Yeah, I know. You can connect with toys, you can connect with bugs or cars, but you can't connect with real people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying different life experiences have you look at things in different ways. But on my second viewing, I was able to push those things aside and I was able to look at it as more as okay, this is just about a person learning who they are learning what they like from both groups, and just learning how to find their own place in the world. And it also helped then that I watched the behind the scenes documentary about this film, because the director was very clear and was fantastic when she was talking about, this is a film about growing up. This is a film about making your own choices and learning who you are. So that really helped set a better tone for me with this movie. And it's a good movie. I will not take that away from it. So let's start looking at some aspects of the film. Let's start with the characters. The characters are great. Every single voice and every single actor or actress nails their part. I will admit, I'm not even going to try to say everybody in this film. I'm not going to try and pronounce their names because I just don't want to get it wrong. And every performer in this movie, just like I said, nails the role. May, you believe that she is this 13-year-old girl who doesn't know what she's supposed to do. You see the complexity in her features, in her character, in her personality is just so jumbled. She's being pulled in two directions, and you can see at moments where she's torn, where she feels like crap for something she does, where whatever decisions she's made, she knows this isn't the right decision, or this isn't who I am, or this is who I am when she makes another decision. The mother, she's fantastic. Again, from the very beginning, you get the sense of very specific, you must do this, you must honor your family. She's very protective of May to the point that it will drive you nuts. You're like, oh my gosh, why is she like this? But at the same time, you will say, oh, even if my mother wasn't like that, I definitely know mothers that were. Her friends that she surrounds herself with, they're all unique. They all have their own specific niche that they fall into. You've got the, I'm going to say, goth friend, even though she's not wearing the stereotypical black, but you do see her holding a book at one point that's like, okay, that's Twilight, so she's that type of girl. You see another one who's just always hyper, always moving around, doesn't know what to do, doesn't know what to say. She's the one that drove me nuts. And then you have the one that I would say is her best friend. Sure, all these girls are her friends, but there's this one that it just feels like this is her best friend, because when certain things happen, it's their relationship that gets tested. It seems like she's the one who is trying to get May to do certain things. It all comes back to her and May and how they interact with each other. Like I said, the other two friends are fantastic, but I really think the focus is on these two. And that might not be a great thing or might not please everyone, but it works. Because let's be honest, we're all like that with our own friends. We have a group of people that we love to hang out with, but you can't tell me that there isn't one that you connect with a lot better. Maybe they share more interests with you. Maybe they're closer to you in age. Whatever. And then you got the grandmother. Wow. From the minute she starts to talk, you're like, okay, you're worse than the mother. But she nails the part. And that's who the character is. It's just the way she talks and what she says, it's like, oh God, she's one of these characters. She's one of these that believes everything needs to be a specific way. And she's much more stern than this other person who we thought was the sternest of the group. And just the way she acts, yeah, it gets kind of like annoying, but not in the sense that you want to strangle her. It's, come on, let May be May. Like, lighten up a little bit. The aunties, they're there for fun. They're they add a lot more of the humor to the family itself. And then there's the dad, who seems to be the voice of reason when it comes to the family in general. There's a lot of great characters in here. There's a lot of great voice acting, like I said. That was perfectly nailed. The animation is superb. It's bright. It looks like just a painting, though, yes, given an anime or cartoon style, American cartoon style, of something that's just standing out there. I mean, I looked at pictures of actual buildings in Toronto where this movie takes place, comparing it to the animation, and it looks great. It's clean, it's crisp, it's bright, and it feels different from other movies we've seen recently. Yes, Coco had actual buildings, and I mean, yeah, we saw buildings in movies like Inside Out, and we all saw these things that could be in the real world. But there's something about Turning Red that really, really feels like you could go up to Toronto and you'd see all of this. Even the mysticism or the spiritual part of the movie with the whole turning into a panda thing feels like it doesn't feel out of place. It feels like it makes sense and it works in this world. And that is just a very high compliment to the people that animated it and even the script itself. But of course, you got to talk about the music because there is a boy band in this movie. Yeah, I wasn't into that stuff. When I was a teen, yeah, I didn't follow the boy bands. I didn't even follow the female artists. I just, honestly, I didn't really listen to much music when I was younger. I listened more to the oldies, but I digress. But I will say, the music sounds exactly like I remember hearing it on the playground or hearing it in school. The boy band and the songs they have, I can imagine these coming out of bands like NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. I can imagine them singing these types of songs back in the day. So they nailed that aspect of it as well. I like this movie. There's a lot of stuff in it that works. It makes sense. And they just did a great job. The director, she did Bow, which was a short a couple years ago. And that was really good. That was emotional too. And you can see that she brought that sensibility to this film. But she also lightened the humor some. And she took herself serious at times when she needed to with the movie, but she also allowed it to have fun and not be as dark. There is one moment that I just absolutely love in this movie, and it's because for a moment, it kind of feels like a fun kaiju movie. I'm not going to say how, but it does, and I loved it. This movie, while, like I said, at first I felt like I really couldn't connect to it because of not having the same experiences as May. But upon that second viewing, and the more I think about it, the more it's like, you know what? You just flip the scenarios and you apply it to your own life. Yeah, I was like that. You know, I never really rebelled against my parents. That wasn't who I was. Or at least, not to my knowledge. But yeah, I wanted to be my own person. I wanted to go out and do my own things. Even though what I wanted to do, my parents were fine with most of the time. But I can at least relate to a certain degree when it comes to wanting to please your parents. That's the thing that I really connected with, was wanting to make your parents proud of you. And even if they were, or even if they are, there's a part of you that doesn't quite feel like they are. Okay, yeah, I will admit that was getting kind of deep before this movie, but just thinking about that, I start to realize these things. There's so much more depth to this movie than I realized upon a first viewing, and probably even a second viewing. And I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad this movie was made. It would have been nice to see it in the theater instead of just watching it on Disney Plus, because I'd rather have that experience. But I will say this is definitely a film designed, I think, more for mothers and daughters. Not that that's a bad thing. The other thing I did want to mention was I thought they handled the culture of Chinese Americans, or in this case, Chinese Canadian Chinese, well. I mean, at least what I know or what I picture. I just thought they handled that well. And since the director herself is of Asian descent and has had some of these experiences, I would expect that they were. And the documentary did say that they went to these places to get a better idea. There's a temple in the movie. They went to an actual temple to get ideas for it. It just feels real, and I have a hard time putting into words everything about this movie, because I just have a hard time really feeling like I know what I'm thinking when it comes to it. Because, like I said, you have that first impression that I got where I'm like, I feel like I can't relate to this because I'm not a girl and I don't have any siblings that went through it. But then there's the, okay, let's take that out of the equation and put ourselves into it and think of it in a different way. Even though there are some scenarios they get into that you just, you can't change them. But that being said, would I recommend this movie? Yeah, I definitely would. As far as a rating goes, I'm gonna say give it a hero rating, because I definitely think they did a great job with it. It's very well put together. The voice cast is fantastic. The story is good. The metaphors are there. Like I said, it's complex, simplicity, all rolled into one. It's another successful film from Pixar. But I would say the people who are going to get the most out of this are mothers and daughters, um, women who remember what it was like being a teenager. But again, everybody will enjoy this movie. I don't want it to feel like I'm saying, hey guys, we're not going to like it. Because you will. I'm pretty sure you will, and you'll have some fun with it. But have you seen Turning Red? What do you think? Am I totally off on this? Am I dead on? Whatever your thoughts about this movie are, let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, read what you love, enjoy what you love, and let's all work for a better fandom. I'll see you next time.